Canada is in the middle of a social crisis that is sweeping through the whole city, and hardly anyone is left untouched, as one way or the other, everybody is affected. At the top of this long list of Canada's problems is that of homelessness. Why does it get the spotlight? Well, that is because from this problem, all other problems are created, and because of all the other problems, homelessness happens. You see, it is a connected problem. In this video, you're going to learn how homelessness is the leading social problem that has turned Canada into a less desirable place to live in. The actual figures of homeless people in Canada are overwhelming. Whatever figure popped up in your head is probably off by ×2. A new method for counting homeless people has revealed that the crisis is far worse than we think. Current estimates indicate that the country's homeless population could be 3 times higher than what is on record. That's quite hard to take in. The former methods for determining the number of homeless people relied on counting people accessing services like shelters or food banks. A lot of people experiencing homelessness either do not choose to access shelters or there isn't space for those who want to. Then what do we have? Too many tent cities popping out on every street and trailer home. As Canada's homelessness continues to get worse, it is puzzling because millions of the city's money are being thrown into fighting this menace. Many of Canada's citizens have cried out about feeling unsafe in their community because of the number of homeless people littered across the city's sidewalk. For some reason, homeless people are considered scary and a threat to others. Maybe it's because many of these homeless people look alike with their unkempt appearances, making them scream dangerous. So, for a lot of Canadians, the fewer homeless people there are on the street, the safer they'll feel, because as it is now, homelessness equals criminal activities happening every now and then. Canada's new wave of homelessness can be traced back to the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as the increased cost of living. Inflation is dealing terribly with consumers, especially low-income households. Gas, groceries, and rent have seen frightening increases. According to a survey, the median rent across the country increased by 7% between the second quarters of 2021 and 2022. The tremendous increase in the price of rent is forcing folks to make hard decisions, as nearly 85% of a person's income goes to food and shelter. Focusing on 2 pressing needs at a time has been made almost impossible, so one is now left with picking one over the other. If someone is already struggling to make ends meet, a single unexpected bill could force them from their home. Say a person has a serious health challenge, and they've got to pay medical bills and rent is due. On a low income, it wouldn't take long for a person to be out on the street or dead. It is sad that people have to make such choices. So, please check out my previous video where we are uncovering Canada's economic collapse 2023 to see more details on Canada's economic situation. Just what is being done to relieve the cost of living pressures on the lowest income households? We'll find out. At least 38% of Canada's population have reported that homelessness has increased acts of violence in the community. As stated earlier, homelessness is greatly linked to crimes happening all around. If this is the case, what measures is the government working with to reduce this? Many think the government isn't doing anything about this, and some others think the government is actually doing its best to make things better. What do you think? Recent data from Toronto Public Health found that the city's homeless death rate has doubled in just the last 3 years. Businesses are being robbed, cars are stolen from driveways, and random assaults happen on our streets. Local parks have witnessed more crimes and death that should not have happened. Stabbing a person multiple times, slitting an innocent's throat, setting a person on fire, and sexual assaults are crimes citizens risk being victims to when they step out of their homes. Taking the subway has become risky, and minding your business doesn't guarantee a person's safety. Too many times, parents have been hit with the unbelievable news of their child's deaths. Perpetrators of these acts have no regard for a person's age, gender, or race. CCTVs have captured unprovoked acts of violence on random people by strange attackers. What triggers relatives of these victims is the knowledge that those who hurt their loved ones are repeat offenders. Why would a person who has been convicted more than 50 times for various degrees of crimes be out on the street? It's incredible. It's like the system is saying, go on out and commit more of those crimes. We're happy to receive you for a couple of years and throw you right back out. These types of individuals clearly have serious issues, and letting them out into society puts everyone at risk. It's only a matter of who's next, because they're definitely going to do something quicker than you know. The system has to be more strict with violent offenders. They shouldn't be let out on our streets. at least not without proper observation. In Toronto, a major encampment in the city's Trinity Bellwoods Park has experienced an increase in fire outbreaks. Tens of thousands of used needles are seen littered, and to further make homeless people less appealing, threats have been uttered to passerby. Guess where most people will be spending their free time? Certainly not the park. Various tent cities have been accused of inciting violence and drug trafficking. Women are more vulnerable to attacks. A lot of them are threatened, harassed, beaten, and raped. On the issue of drug-related deaths, hundreds of cases of drug overdoses are reported too often. The ease of accessibility of these drugs doesn't help in any way. Moves to completely stop the use of most harmful drugs have been rendered futile because of their importance in the medical field. As a result, many of these drugs remain within reach and can be gotten over the counter. The concept of safe supplies was found to be ineffective because hundreds have died too while on safe supplies. Counterfeit of these drugs produced with incorrect measurements are sold to unsuspecting individuals, and the unlucky ones pay dearly with their lives. Drug addiction is a problem the government is trying to curb by the creation of help facilities for those affected. But this isn't enough because a homeless person can't get clean or even consider finding a job until they're first given a stable roof over their head. More programs ought to be created to get homeless Canadians into the labor force. If you're enjoying this video so far, please let me know in the comments section. If you've experienced any form of violence, we would love to get your point of view. So, what is the government doing about all of these? It has promised to face the issue of crime, public disorder, and homelessness. If it's the money, the government has pumped loads of it into this scheme. For instance, for one city alone, a $633 million budget has been earmarked for spending on homelessness, including a 9-figure funding to implement a permanent housing plan for the homeless. We can agree that these figures do show that the government is working to get a hold of the crisis. In a city like Ontario, homelessness spending is expected to hit $446 million for the next fiscal year, and this rises to more than $1 billion when spending on housing is added. There's more the government is doing. In just 2021, governments bought up more than $250 million worth of Vancouver real estate to house 767 homeless people, and this was an average rate of $351,000 per bed. There is also the Reaching Home Initiative, which is a community-based program aimed at preventing and reducing homelessness across Canada. It provides funding to urban, Indigenous, rural, and remote communities to help them address their local homelessness needs. If the provincial governments could tackle skyrocketing rents and the scarcity of affordable housing, it'll help much. Regulated rent increases should be thrown in as well. For curbing drug addiction, the government has shifted focus to reducing harm to addicts. Addicts are now without the clause of getting totally clean before receiving help. The idea is to have safe drug users without pressure for addicts to get clean. There are government facilities created to provide medical supervision of illicit drug use. To this effect, there are several safe consumption sites all over the country where mental health nurses are being employed in a 24-hour addiction recovery center. To make the people of Canada feel safe, more police officers are being deployed to troubled areas, and community policing is encouraged. Canadians are torn between feeling sorry for those unfortunate to be homeless and at the same time wishing they didn't exist because of the disorder they cause. But with a more precise strategy for fighting homelessness, like the creation of more shelter spaces, more mental health treatment, and more affordable housing, Canada can more than bounce back to its former glorious and safe state.